This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We've not had one of these calls since July. We took an August break, and so I'm delighted that so many of you have come back. And since it is just 9 o'clock, we'll probably double in numbers in the next 5 minutes as people log in. But I appreciate this opportunity to connect with you. And it seems like ever since COVID started, we miss seeing each other, and this is one way that we can guarantee that we will be able to communicate at least once a week. So I appreciate you logging on. I want to talk with you for just a few minutes to get things started about being intentional. There's a formula that I learned years ago that has dramatically impacted my life in a positive way. And it's simply this: intentionality plus proactivity equals success. If you're intentional and proactive, your success is guaranteed. Now, let me explain what those words mean. Intentional means you have a plan. You're not just being random with your activities. You're not just wondering what the day is going to bring you. You wake up every morning knowing what is required of you from an activity level to make your goals complete, to fulfill your goals. Proactivity means you're taking action according to your plan. You have a plan, you're working that plan. Then you all have parents or grandparents who used to say something like that to you: plan your work, work your plan. That is another way of saying be intentional, have a plan, and be proactive, work according to your plan. Now, what I like to say is, if you were arrested and accused of being intentional, what is the evidence that would convict you? Anybody want to jump in on that? What is the evidence that would convict you of being intentional? It is simply, well, it's one of those things that Kevin has in his background there. It is your plan. It's having a written plan. Intentional doesn't mean that you have ideas in your head. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The wealth chart is a plan. So being intentional is not having, ideas about what you want to accomplish, having some lofty dreams in your heart or in your mind. Being intentional is, I have written down my goals and my strategies for achieving those goals. And those strategies drill all the way down to daily tasks that must be performed. If you have that, you have a plan. And you're absolutely guilty of being intentional. And that's something that we all want to be found guilty about. Now, I want to share with you, I'm going to do my book recommendation right up front today instead of waiting for the very end. And here it is. This is my new favorite book. It's called Traction. I realize there's a lot of sunshine on my screen. There we go. Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. This was actually given to me several years ago by one of our vendor partners. I put it on my bookshelf and never opened it. And then when we were in San Diego, one of our key business partners, Andrew Franklin, said to me that when he read this book, it changed everything for him. In fact, it convinced him he didn't even have a business. And this is a guy with several successful businesses, but he felt like he had always had an amateur approach to his business. He had not been intentional. He did not have a plan for growing his businesses that was based upon proven strategies, and Traction outlines that plan in great, great detail. Well, I respect Andrew, and I'm already on the intentional party bus. I've been there for years. I operate every business I have by written plans, but it sounded like this book was taking it to a new level. So I bought it. I've listened to it multiple times already on Audible. I have purchased about 10 copies to give away to key leaders in our organization. I've got another 3 copies on the shelf as we add people to our leadership team. But I'm sharing this with you to say I am being extremely intentional about my business. In fact, I'm going to show you something. Here we go. So this is the evidence that would convict me. This is my statement of intentionality. I know you can't read it, but what it is my fourth quarter priorities. And I've broken them down into sales, marketing, mentoring, finance and HR, processing, and social media. And we have between 4 and 6 activities that our leadership team is committed to completing in the fourth quarter. Now, somebody help me out. Now that we have proof of being intentional, is that going to guarantee our success? No. What's still lacking?
Your actions.
That's
Your
right,
follow-through.
actions. Yeah, that's right, being proactive, actually doing these things. And of course, you don't make a plan unless you intend to do it. But as human beings, we are notoriously good at justifying our distractions, reasons why we didn't do what we said we needed to do. And so what we've done internally is that we have an individual who's assigned each one of these areas of responsibility, and we meet every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock for the specific purpose of saying, how are you doing on your priority commitments? How are you doing on working your plan? Now, I can do that because I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I have people who help me get it done. But you can do this with yourself as well. I would encourage you, divide your business into priority areas, just like I did: sales, marketing, HR, social media. So think about your real estate sales business. What are the key divisions in your business? And I tend to think of those things along the lines of an operational model. Maybe it starts with personal branding. Do you need to address personal branding issues? Well, as Kevin said earlier, he's got Abbey Realty on his window shield. He needs to update that to EXP Realty. But have you identified your unique contribution to the real estate community? What is it that you do better or differently than anybody else? That's part of your branding. Have you come up with that? If not, maybe that needs to be a priority issue. From personal branding, it really moves into marketing. What are you going to do to get the message out to the buying and selling public that you're a caring, competent real estate professional? So perhaps you're going to do outreaches in your neighborhood. Perhaps you're going to do home and garden shows. Perhaps you're going to be marketing to your sphere of influence. But think about the key areas that are going to generate business in your world. And then ultimately you're going to develop strategies for extracting that business. But for right now, we're just identifying priorities. Then think about your lead conversion skills and strengths. If somebody called you today and said, hey, I'm thinking about listing my home, I've already talked to 2 other agents, I'd like you to come over tonight and share with me what you would do to get my home sold, would you be like, yippee, or, oh my God? I mean, which would it be? If it's the latter, then I would suggest that your business needs some work on the listing conversation. You need to know how you're going to get homes sold, how you're going to price that home, how you're going to market, how you're going to represent your seller in negotiating the deal. Okay, that's lead conversion. And we can have the same conversation around a buyer. And now think about managing the transaction. Do you have a preferred inspector that you can recommend? Do you have a preferred lender? Do you have a preferred title company? If it turns out that some work is going to need to be done on the roof or the HVAC, do you have a trusted vendor partner that you can recommend? This is part of your client service activity. If a buyer comes to you and says, hey, yeah, I've got $500,000 cash and I'd like to find a home in Montgomery County, you know, it's got 4 bedrooms and at least an acre of land. Do you know how to find those properties? Do you know how to organize an efficient showing schedule? Once you arrive at the home, do you know how to actually present or show the home without looking like a silly HGTV agent? You know, do you just think through these things? think through your business systematically like that, and I expect you're going to come up with columns of key divisions in your sales business, and then, like me, identify priority areas in each one of them where you need personal development. Sometimes it's skills you need to develop. Sometimes it's a knowledge area. Sometimes you just need practice. Maybe you need a role play partner to go through some scripts and dialogues about how you're going to handle objections, or them trying to put you off, or them saying, hey, you seem wonderful, but you know, I've got an appointment this Thursday to talk to another agent. How do you deal with that to assure that they don't meet with that other agent, and that you go ahead and take that listing right now? So these are all things, if you thinking through them and then putting them on paper is the evidence that you're being intentional. And being intentional is 50% of being successful. You have to start with a plan. Okay, so there we go. That's my sermonette for the day. That's what I'm all fired up about today. Let's pause and just open the floor. Any comments, questions, pushback, objections about what I've shared with you before we move into more of an open forum? Bob?
Yeah, just one comment, Frank. 100% right, of course. The other side of that I have found with new agents is the fear factor.
Okay.
Dealing with the fear factor. You can have the greatest plan. I went to school back in 03, real estate school, and there were several that we all joined Keller Williams together, and 3 in particular, I remember, man, they took every class that was available.
Yes.
They had all great notes. They had great information, had their plan all laid out, never picked up the phone, never, you know, one thing I got thrown into was property desk. You know, when you're sitting there, you have to be the one answer the phone, or somebody walks in, you're the one to wait on them. You can't hide from that, but you have to volunteer to do that. And
yes.
And so in my opinion, I think you mentioned role play. That can really, really help kind of break down that fear factor, because so often you worry as a newbie, especially you worry about, what if I don't have the answer? I mean, I've heard that before from our team several times. You know, what if I don't have the answer? What do I say? How do I handle that? You won't have, you know, after 19 years, I still don't have all the answers, but you learn to go ahead and just go for it. But role playing, I think, helps a lot in kind of breaking down that fear and preparing you how to
Yes.
respond to situations.
Yeah, I love that, Bob. I think you're exactly right. And let me just share with you along that line. If you saw my email last night, we have put together our fall training calendar. It's going to be tweaked a little bit more, but the big rocks are in place. And one of the new rocks that we have added, we're calling it New Agent ICU, New Agent Intensive Care Unit. And we're going to meet once a week on Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock. That will be right before the contract mastery classes begin at 10 o'clock. And we're just going to help new agents develop knowledge, skills, and confidence, Bob, using, among other things, role play. And by the way, that's going to be an awesome class. It's going to be led by a team of our more experienced agents. That doesn't mean super experienced, it means more. Just like you are more experienced as a brand new real estate agent than your buyers and sellers who never went to the trouble of getting a real estate license, right? I tell my agents, I tell you guys all the time, if you've been around, you've heard me say this, I try to stay about 5 minutes ahead of you. You know, I'll get up and teach sometimes and y'all say, Frank, that was brilliant. I'll be like, well, great, I learned that last night, you know? So that's part of confidence, Bob. We kind of feel like we have to know everything. No, we just have to know a little bit more than the person that we're talking to, and we should be very confident that we're leading them in the right direction. Okay, all right, appreciate that, Bob. Anybody else have a comment, concern about what I shared? Being intentional. All right. Well, let me just add one final comment on that subject. If you struggle with being intentional and you're not even quite sure what the issues are that you need to address in your business, I'm going to recommend a book called 1 Year, 6 Figures, because this is a business plan. In fact, it says right on the cover, it uses the word, a scalable plan to enable any agent to create a 6-figure boost in their annual income. So this plan has already been written. No, it wasn't written with your personality in mind and your background, so it will need some tweaking, but it has absolutely been written based upon proven sources of business and proven strategies to extract that business from each of the sources. And it drills down in the back to a 365-day plan. You don't have to wonder what you're going to wake up and do every day. It has already been written for you. So I'm selling these books for the low price of free. Okay. I thought about putting like a $99 price tag on it in the beginning. Never did that. We've never sold one. We've always given them away. I still have about 40 I'd like to get rid of, and that will inspire me to do a rewrite and take out the Abby Realty references and put in EXP Realty references. So if you need a plan, just swing by the office. We have them at the front desk. And of course, I have them in my office as well. Okay, so let's go open mic here for just a few minutes. Let's first of all start about wins, losses, fears, victories, closings, weird customers. Right before this this call started, I got a call from an agent I've never met in Galveston, Texas, who couldn't get any help from her brokers, and somebody gave her my name, and sure enough, she's in a weird situation, and she's a new agent. This is her second transaction, and I said, you know, I hate to break it to you like this, but they're all weird. Okay, the normal people all left the room a long time ago, so just brace yourself. This is not an anomaly in your real estate career. Every transaction is going to have drama. And as a mindset issue, you really need to see your role as that of drama manager. Just like a wedding planner, right? You know, at every wedding, something's going to go wrong. And generally, that's an opportunity for everybody to laugh, and it breaks the tension, and it's the only thing people remember 20 years later. In a real estate transaction, something's going to go wrong. And generally, it's going to be a people problem. In her case, it was the mortgage company who couldn't close on time. A processor went on vacation for a week, and they just let the file sit, and they missed 2 closing extensions, and now they need a third. And the seller's digging their heels in and saying no. So there's always going to be issues and drama. We, as the professional in the relationship, need to be prepared for that and know how to navigate these tricky situations. That's why we get paid. That's why we get paid. It's not so much to show pretty houses or even to schedule a photographer to go take pretty pictures of new listings. We earn our money navigating that transaction through the minefields that lie between contract and close. All right, what was the title of that book, Cy? Thank you, giving me another chance to pitch my book, 1 Year, 6 Figures, available for sale or giveaway at the Abbey Academy Spring Campus. Okay, what's going on in your business that would be helpful to everybody else to know about? Oh, the traction one. Well, the traction one, Cy, is named Traction. Okay, by Gino Wickman. Some of y'all who've been in the business a long time probably remember Floyd Wickman. He was a legend in the real estate industry in the 70s, 80s, 90s. He led a coaching club called the Sweat Hogs. And you paid him big money for him to beat you up and tell you you're going to make 100 calls every day to expireds and FSBOs. But the people who went through it and survived it, kind of like boot camp, they fell in love with him. Gino Wickman, who wrote Traction, is Floyd Wickman's son. So there's a lot of real estate references in the book, which is kind of fun. Okay, what's going on in your world? Are things kind of quiet? Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
Well, don't you know, some of us were blessed to go to a EXP convention last week. It was unofficial EXP, as Brent Goves put on Build 22 up in Dallas, and it was thebomb.com. It was really something. I had never been to one. I'm relatively new, just joined EXP last December, and it was just extraordinary because while I expected a huge convention and Tony Robbins and all that, my hair is still on fire. You can see it singed on the back there. But what I didn't expect was the attitude, this kind of uplifting culture that we have. You know, we see it here locally at Abbey, but I was just so pleased to see it literally go all the way up the food chain. And it's this giver's gain mentality. And they had a little interview. I mean, my goodness, and talk about a flat culture. EXP, as big as it is, over 84,000 agents today. I mean, I've taken a picture with the founder, Glenn Sanford. We can still fit in one room. It is that sense of openness. And I've worked in my professional career, international logistics and whatnot, with a number of 70,000 employee companies. And trust me, I wasn't hanging with the big dog, and I wasn't taking any pictures with them. So I just want to share with all of y'all, there's an EXP Con coming up in Vegas. It might be a little close for you and your time, but I just want to give you that sense of enthusiasm. If you ask yourself, is it worth me investing time and money to go to one of these big EXP events? And from my perspective, and I'd love to hear from the rest of y'all on the call, but from my perspective, it really is, because you will come away with a renewed sense of enthusiasm and just a deeper appreciation for what we have. For $85 a month, I get a brokerage that extends through all 50 states and 21 countries in the ability to find and refer to agents all over the world. $85 a month? Are you serious? I mean, this is incredible. And every measure, we've got something here. We've got something we're sharing. And I just really was so blessed to go. Blythe and Tom and Annie came along, but I just want to put that pitch in there. And where I'm at right now is I'm still digesting. It's like drinking from a fire hose, right? I'm still digesting all these ideas and things, watching my videos and notes and the contents out there. And trust me, we would love to share with y'all and pour into y'all what we learned, but it was really the bomb. So 2 thumbs for me.
Love it. Thank you so much, Kevin. And I do want to hear from Annie and Blythe and Letty, anybody who also attended Build. But before y'all jump in, let me share with you, Kevin, the opportunity to attend events like this is one of the key reasons why we transitioned from being a small independent brokerage to aligning with an international, fastest growing in history organization. Is I knew that they would give us the opportunity to meet face to face and shake hands and talk and interact and get coaching and counsel from the best agents in the world. There is nothing like attending these events. It is life changing. It just, you see your business differently, you see yourself differently, and you know it's not just you, and it's not just your little nuclear family of our Abbey team agents, you know, here in Houston, but you're part of something massive. It's a worldwide movement, and there's something about that that just makes you stand a little taller and walk a little straighter. So that was in my mind from the beginning, and Kevin, you are absolute evidence that it's happening. I appreciate that. Annie, Blythe, Letty, anybody want to jump in with the biggest takeaway from Build 22?
It was an amazing experience. It was, you know, to be in a room with 5,000-6,000 agents. Everyone is willing to talk to you. Everyone is willing to share. Everyone, you're not competitors, you're partners. And it's kind of like the same Abbey culture times 1,000%.
Yeah.
It was just an amazing experience. It was 3 days, or definitely 2 days, the first 2 days of just regular people coming up on stage and giving their story, giving their background. This is how I did it. This is where I came from. And they're no different from any of us. And they're no different from me. And it's like, well, the resounding message was, if they did it, why not me?
Right.
And so this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm trying to put myself together. It was an amazing experience. I am so glad that I went, and it was really a blessing, like Kevin says. And I was really lucky to have caught up to them and shared, because it was almost like a retreat, like a spiritual experience. I mean, there was tears, there was laughter, there was love, and you just felt it in a room of 6,000 people, which is really kind of hard to do. And of course, Tony Robbins that's the first time I see him in person, and that was like bigger than life.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was so awesome. And I feel very blessed to have been part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Tears are almost always part of the events. I shared with y'all when I came back from Cabo. When I was in Cabo, after I had spoken, of course, everybody wanted to come up and tell me, "Oh, that's my story too." You know, you learn that you can relate to each other. And Mary and I had multiple experiences where people would approach us already in tears, to talk about how our story had touched them, and they identified with it, and they knew that now they had a soulmate in the organization now. One guy in the elevator, started bawling like a baby, and we didn't know if we were going to have to carry him out of there. These events, they just touch you at the deepest level, and they can. It's not always like a spiritual experience. Sometimes it is a spiritual experience. All right, Blythe, I think your turn is up.
Yeah, so I just would echo what everybody else has said. So since joining EXP, I've now gone to 3 events, and they are always just the kind of little booster that you need, because it's like this for us, right? I would really encourage you guys all to get in the room, because even if there might be like a virtual option or whatever, it's not the same as being there. Energy is everything. And if you've got energy and you're being influenced by these people who have so much energy, and you're surrounding yourself with these people, then that's going to translate to you, and then that's going to translate into your business. So I would just encourage you to get in the room. But here's my one caveat to that. I think that's the right word. My one kind of warning: don't go if you're going to have a bad attitude, because I have seen that happen as well, when people show up to these things and they're like, "Oh, well, it's just going to be a pep rally." Heck yeah, it's going to be a pep rally. Heck yeah, it's going to be a pep rally. That's why we go, right? That's why you go to the pep rally before the big game on Friday night, to get pumped up. That's why we're there. So don't go if you're not going to be open-minded, and you're not going to be ready to just absorb everything. And like Kevin said, it is like drinking from a fire hose. It's so much I'm still processing. So even like my biggest takeaways, I'm like, I'm gonna go look at my notes again, because there's just, I took pages and pages and pages and pages of notes. But I think the biggest thing that I took away, and I even said this to my husband in the car the other night. He coaches a little league baseball team, and they had a tough loss last Saturday, and he was saying he had kind of a bad attitude in the dugout with them, And I said, well, Tony Robbins says, if you want to influence others, you first have to influence yourself.
Yeah.
So you got to get yourself right. You got to get your mindset right. It's everything. And that's the kind of thing that these events help you do. So
Love
that's
it.
my soapbox.
Yeah,
I love it.
and that was a great takeaway, Blythe. What about Kevin and Annie? Do you have 1 or 2 takeaways from that, maybe specific applications that you can share with us?
I can't carry a water bottle for Blythe. She's like a rock star in the room, so I think she nailed it there. No, the takeaways, the main one I gave was the feeling of the culture. I was able to meet a number of people. I filmed my own little short mini videos with them. I learned so much. And yes, it was a pep rally, but I'm telling you, some of those people got on stage, and they kind of stretched it. They really, because they know they're talking to a room of top producers, and they were very direct in their challenges. And they said, You gotta, and so it was some tough love at times, right? It wasn't all just fluffy stuffy. But there's so much. I've got to pass some to Blythe. Found some great things. I want to make sure she sees up her specialty with the Instagram. I guess the other takeaway I get, and Frank in his book, he lays out the goose, and he says you don't need to try to be an expert at all things. To try to be an expert at all things, you probably are gonna not go deep enough. And we saw this. The folks that spoke on stage, they had very different strategies and activities that got them there. There isn't one way to do this. There's 1,000 ways. But the thing is, and this is the question I'm always asking people, what's the one thing? What's the one thing for you? Figure out your one thing and then do your one thing. God only one of you, and he wants you to be you. He doesn't want you to be a copy of me, for goodness sake, or anybody else. He wants you to be you. And same thing in real estate. We got to find what's our thing and do our thing. That's there for us. That's the path for us to walk on. We got to do our thing. But an event like this, as Frank said, it resonates with people, and people were coming up to him and coming up to the other speakers afterwards saying, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Annie?
Well, something that resonated with me was when Tony was speaking, Tony Robbins, and he says, he's just like everybody else, and he wakes up and some days it's just like, okay, I'm just not feeling this today. And it's your mindset, and it's your sucking it up and putting yourself in a position that I'm going to find the energy, I'm going to do my exercises, I'm going to get the energy physically. And then once the physical adrenaline is going, the mindset comes back. And then you get to, maybe you're half an hour behind today, but you're going to get there. And it's self-promoting, it's self-inducing energy and self-inducing mindset. And the mindset is everything. It's everything. If you think you can, you will. And if you think you can't, you're not, don't even.
That's right.
It's done.
You're right.
So this is like the basic of the basics of the basics, but this is something that I think we all need. I know I do, because it is my mindset. And, it's kind of like the confidence levels and stuff. I have to build myself up before I can expect anybody else to do it. So that's what I'm working on. I'm, definitely trying to make a plan. This is the last quarter of the year. And, I want to really end it up with a bang.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to follow up on something Annie just said there about physical energy. It seems like everybody's worn out, which is kind of weird to me, because this is an industry that we freely chose, a career that we freely chose, that requires high energy and hard work. I mean, as you're building your business, you can be putting in 50, 60 hours a week routinely. And if you're not willing to make that kind of commitment, you might be in the wrong industry. And I don't mean you have to work that hard forever, but when you're in launch phase, it takes tremendous energy to get a rocket off the ground. Now, once you're in space, you've got all kinds of efficiencies working for you. But I heard something years ago, and my experience in acting it out has proven it to be true. Do you know how you create physical energy? So when you're feeling down and I just want to sit on the couch, get me some chocolate and a bowl of ice cream and a Netflix, whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the evening, when there's productive activity to be done, but you just don't have it physically, this is it. It's physical movement.
100%.
Get your body in motion. Even if you don't feel like it, get up, start walking. Go get on the treadmill, jump on the bike, do something, get yourself in motion. And it is the energy expended which creates additional energy. And you'll find everything clearing up, your mind clearing up, everything being rejuvenated. The physical leads to the spiritual, the physical leads to the mental. You can't be sharp and on your game mentally and otherwise if you're physically lethargic. So the physical sets you up. This is our foundation, right? This is our vehicle right here, and we charge it up by movement. So when you feel yourself slacking in any part, spiritually, mentally, otherwise, get moving. You hear this all the time. People say, I have my best ideas when I'm working out. I go for a run and all of a sudden I have this inspiration. That is not accidental. Physical energy generates more physical energy, which leads to mental and spiritual clarity. All right. Letty, did you want to jump in on this discussion?
Well, I came a little bit late. I heard my name on there. I did not attend Build. I don't know if there was a misunderstanding. I don't know what was mentioned before. Now, that really puts me, and I feel even really worse because I had an opportunity to attend, and this speaks to a little bit of the mindset. Carrie Bond had contacted me saying they had an extra ticket, and I was like, and then it was like, even my husband was like, go for it, go. And then I'm like, this is the thing is, what I responded was, I'm not prepared. I don't, yes, something like, I'm not prepared. Well, what did I mean by that? Because I'm thinking, one, logistics, I hadn't booked a hotel, I hadn't done anything. So, but that's never kept me from doing anything because I will do it. I have family over there. So that really wasn't the whole thing. That was probably like a third. Not prepared. I looked around and said, I'm not a top producer. I looked at what I'm not. And I'm thinking, well, there's other producers, top producers that aren't even going to this thing. Like, so I was caught between like looking around and comparing myself, yet feeling a tug of, I should be going. And plus I have this opportunity. And, so it's this tug of war, but I feel great that Annie got to go and Kevin, I just, Blythe, I mean, that's awesome. But my problem is I looked around and
Yes.
and at the environment, knowing better because, again, I had my husband's support. You got to do it, go, and I didn't. But
Yes.
it's like now I want to hear more of what they, but it just shows me that I cannot, if I know that something's stirring in me and I need to go with that gut. And especially when the door opens and God provides, a ticket, I didn't move through it. Now I'm not going to regret it in a negative way. I'm going to be like, that ought to tell you, Letty.
Learn from it. Mm-hmm.
But Letty, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you become a better golfer?
Swinging.
No, it's a good answer.
In the rep.
You become a better golfer by playing with better golfers.
For better golfers. Mm-hmm.
Right? You surround yourself with people who are performing that task at a higher level than you are, and you will find yourself rising to their game level.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the same way in real estate. If you're trying to become a top producer, you need to hang out with top producers. And I've shared this story when I was a new real estate agent. I reached out to the top real estate agent in each that I knew had a connection with in each metro area in Texas and formed a mastermind. And they all came together. We would meet for retreats about 3 times a year. My value add was I introduced them to each other because I was clearly the dumbest person in the room, the lowest producer in the room. I really had so little to contribute in terms of real estate knowledge. And yet, all of us, not only did my business explode, their businesses exploded because of the interaction and the learning and masterminding with each other. So if you feel like you don't belong in the room, that's the room you want to go to, right? That's it. That's it. You want to surround yourself with people who intimidate you, right? And go learn all you can. Appreciate you sharing, Letty. Blythe, did you want to jump in, or Annie?
Yeah, I just wanted to some more takeaways from last week that I think maybe because Bob had said something, a little bit more like, I guess, implementable or whatever.
Yes.
But Don, I think his name was Don Werner, got up on the stage, extremely successful. And he was talking because the whole theme was to build legacy, right? To build a legacy for your family and to build generational wealth and health and relationships and family and all these things that tap into or that, kind of fall into this building a legacy umbrella. And he said that the way that you build an elite legacy is to think about leveraging your platform, kind of hopping off what Kevin had said. What's your one thing? What is the platform that God has given you? And then leverage that. And think about what you're doing with the gifts that you've been given. So what is your thing? And then really lean into that. But here were the 5 keys of significance, 5 keys to having a significance and happiness in life. So if you're taking notes, I would write these down because they really, impacted me. He said, number 1 is intentionality, which is how Frank started this call. And the quote that I wrote down under this, and it has just been ringing in my ears ever since last week, was being busy is akin to being sloppy with your time and is a form of laziness.
Yes.
And that was like, oof. Because what do you say? How are things going? Oh, things are busy. It's busy, busy, busy. Right? Well, get in control of your calendar, girl.
Yeah.
Be intentional about what you're doing. You're in control of that. So that's number 1, intentionality. Number 2 is to have a purpose behind what you're doing. So what's your why? What is your purpose? Number 3 is to have goals. Of course, we all know that, like Frank was talking about, you need to have a plan, right? Number 4 is grit. You got to be willing to put in the work, not look around at what everybody else is doing. Do what's in your gut. You know what you have to do. Be gritty. And number 5 is to always have a growth mindset. And I think that goes back to putting yourself in the room with people who are smarter and better than you and absorbing all you can. And that includes going to these classes, going to these events, going and getting in the room with these people. It's just, I just cannot overstate it enough. And I'm doing some really hard work in my life right now, kind of distancing myself from some people who are not at the energy level that I want to live my life. And that's really hard because I love those people, but it's not the future that I want for myself and for my family and for my legacy. And so I'm having to make some tough choices right now. And I would encourage you to do the same. So That's all.
Yep. Tough choices. I'm having a friendship crisis right now. Unlike any I've had in a very long time with one particular friend, a very close friend, and he's very frustrated with me for not giving time to a particular issue that he thinks is worthy of a lot of time. And he accused me this week of, well, it's just not a priority for you. And I thought about that and I had to answer him back. And I said, you're
That's
right. It's right. It's not a priority for me. I do live my life by priorities, and it's way down the list. And there's a personal cost to being intentional and living by priorities because your priorities are not the same as everybody else's. And you need to get really clear on what you're trying to accomplish, on where you're headed. And as Blythe said, and as I'm experiencing right now, you may have to change some relationships. Blythe said she needs to get around some people who have higher energy levels, right? And you've heard this is nothing new, that you will be the average of the 5 adults that you spend the most time with in every area of your life, in your business success, in your physical health, in your mental attitude. You will reflect the people you hang out with. So some of us need an upgrade in our peer groups and get in alignment with people who either support our goals or are understanding of our priorities. Leverage your platform. There you go. All right. Well, we are closing in on it here. I want to mention, Annie, did you have a comment here? I see
Something
your mic.
I said that Build 22 was actually about building your legacy. And by having that energy, by being that person that is open to everybody else, there's such a humanity about EXP's mission or the culture of EXP. It's agent attraction, and people will be attracted to you. And you do, and it's not about recruiting at all. That word was never used. It's about just people, just being kind and being knowledgeable, doing the right thing, and people will come to you. And then you share like, come to an event, or let's talk about this. And the people that presented, I mean, they have hundreds, some had thousands in their lines. And, it is about the passive income. It is about working smarter, not necessarily harder, and just being kind. This world is pretty messed up right now. And a little action, a little kindness just goes such a long way, and it's so remembered. That was one of my biggest takeaways, is that everybody was very kind and giving and just open.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like Blythe putting her 5 points in the chat. So that's very kind. So if you missed those and you didn't have your pencil ready, take a look at the chat there. Let me encourage you in a couple of things. First of all, we have updated the training calendar for the fall. I'm very excited about it. We've got some old rock star classic classes coming back, how to work with buyers, how to work with sellers. By the way, Cheryl Vecchio teaches those classes. They are incredible. And if you felt a little tweak earlier when I asked how you would feel, if someone asked you to come and talk to them about listing their home tonight, and they'd already talked to 2 other agents, you need to take her seller class, right? You won't be afraid again. You'll be so super excited. She has the best seller conversation plan and resources I've ever seen in my entire career. And she's going to be teaching those classes every month through the fall. So we got our classics, contract mastery, legal update. We're doubling the frequency on that. And every Monday is going to be Power Monday. We'll only do it at the church the first Monday of each month, but we're going to have similar high energy music, rock star speakers, awards and recognition, food every single week. We want everybody coming in and fighting for a parking spot, parking in the ditch, going up and down the street, whatever you have to do to get here and be in the room for Mondays. They're going to be really, really cool. And by the way, in October, we're going to, after Power Monday, we're going to go over to the Lexus dealership, right next door, and have lunch and continue the fun over there. They've got an incredible facility, and they've invited us to be part of it. So, and we have some interesting tweaks and twists on Power Monday coming up for you in the next few months. If you've not yet registered for our next one, it's September 12th. That's just a week from Monday. Believe it or not, we're in September already. It's going to be here in 11 more days. If you haven't registered, please do. And if you're like, well, how do I register? Go to eventbrite.com, B-R-I-T-E, and then just search Kim Frazier. And Frazier is K-I-M, last name F-R-A-S-E-R. It's an unusual spelling, but Kim Fraser, I guess, or Fraser is how it looks like it's spelled, F-R-A-S-E-R. And it'll take you right to the Power Monday. And Blythe, again, puts the link right in the chat. Oh, my goodness. That's so kind, so kind. Appreciate that. Hey guys, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I appreciate, my goodness, the input from so many today. Thank you all for the reports from Build 22. I'm so excited about where we're headed as a team. There's some really cool stuff going on. You're going to be hearing more and more about it in the next few days as I kind of leak out additional information about what we have planned for you this fall. But just plan to participate in everything. You got to get in the game, as we've heard several times today. Get in the room, and the Academy is going to be a hopping place this fall. It will be better for seeing your face in the mix. Okay. All right, guys. Well, if you missed part of this, I'm going to put the recording. It'll be on our YouTube channel by the end of the day. And if I can help in any way, let me know. I'm here to help. God bless. Bye-bye, everybody.